The girl stood in front of the dwarven smith, casually flirting her long, thin, furry tail around. She was flanked by 3 other girls. He wasn't too sure about what was going on or why it was going on, but he knew this cat girl was trouble. He had known she was since she reached adulthood. Her friends, an elf, a human, and a wolf girl, had always offered him some kind of twist or bargain, or a secret flirt for some cheap service. He always rejected it, of course. He was a dwarf of honor, after all. "Hello there, Genasi. Here to get me in trouble with my wife again for some cheap nails, HM," he said with a raised brow. She blushed, shrank a bit, and cleared her throat nervously. No. I found something, and I need you to tell me what it is, Mr. Varric," she said with a blush as her tail nervously wrapped itself around her waist. She handed him a bundle of cloth, clearly quite a hefty one, judging by how she held it. "Oh? What's up with this, then? What's so important about it that you wrap it in a cloth and bring it to a blacksmith of all people?" he asked, taking the object. "I found it lodged in a dead smog dragon's spine," she said with little care. Her statement could be heard across the market, forcing the bustling place to suddenly come to a dead stop. "You did what?" he yelled at her. "Please, Genasi, don't tell me you went dragon hunting." He dropped the object and grabbed her. As much as this young lady annoyed him, he wouldn't dare let her get into any danger. She hastily placated him and shook her head. No, I didn't. I was hunting for rabbits in the Red Forest this morning. I found a dragon dead on the ground. I never fought anything, I swear." A crowd was starting to gather, and she reached into her backpack and pulled out proof. The dinner plate-sized scale of a smog dragon, a shining iridescent scale of gleaming silver and black, shining with the sun and sharp as a blade carefully wrapped up in a mithril cloth. Genasi's friends gasped and stood shocked at the sight of it. The market went into a vicious uproar at the sight of a fresh dragon scale, and dozens of people swarmed the smith shop to take a closer look. The town guard responded quickly, preventing a riotous uproar, and settled everyone back to their business, while Genasi returned the dragon scale to its protective sleeve. "All right, then. How'd you get this?" Varric asked as he put the bundle of cloth on his work desk. "Like I said, found it in a dead dragon. I already told the city guard about it. They already seized the corpse. I was allowed to keep a scale. I did, however, pull this thing out of its spine before they took it. Nobody I know knows more about metal than you, so here it is," Genasi replied. All right then, let's see," Varric said and unwrapped the cloth. Inside was an odd lump of twisted metal, an object that was cylindrical in shape, one end twisted and warped from a truly vicious impact, and the other end flat, covered in blood and soot. "Huh, okay then." Varric took the thing and cleaned it in a bucket of water, then took a look at it with a selection of magnifying glasses. "So, any thoughts?" Genasi asked after a few minutes. "Covered in dragon blood, splinters of thick mithril strong bone stuck inside grooves and shards. This definitely killed a dragon, or at the very least hit a piece of dragon bone. Definitely some kind of projectile, but nothing I've ever seen. Whoever made this has a very strange ideal of metallurgy," Varric said as he looked at the odd thing. Care to elaborate?" Genasi asked. Think of this thing to be just like an arrowhead without the shaft or fletch. But it's the most complicated arrowhead I have ever seen. A solid shell of hardened iron surrounding a solid rod core of steel. Judging by how the shape of it warped, it's likely how it was designed. The soft edge of the iron shattered and fragmented like glass, and squashed itself in, forcing the rod in the center to receive all of its energy. That is amazing. Varric mused over the object. "Is that good or bad?" "Serenia," the elven girl asked. "To be honest, it's both amazing and terrifying. To make a thing like this is quite the feat. To get it working to the point it kills a dragon, more so, but to make it fly enough it looks like this when it hits, that's terrifying. No enchantments, no runes, just solid block of metal with a bit of engineering. This wasn't made by my people, or the mountain elves either. Something entirely different made this thing. I'd love to try to remake this," Varric said with a strange grin. "Okay. So now what?" Genasi asked. "I have no idea. I'd love to meet the person who made this. It's ingenious. I have no idea how they would go about using it, though. It takes a stupid amount of force to warp metal of this grade so badly. I hope whoever built it only uses it for killing corrupted dragons, though. I shudder to think of what a thing like this would do to a man or mare, Varric said. Okay. Well, the city guard should be done by now. I guess I can go there and try to investigate now. Might find more of them, Genasi said with a smile. Well, it's a paltry sum, but here's 20 coppers for you. No sense in letting good metal go to waste, Varric said. He handed her 20 coppers for the object and began to heat up his smeltery. Now you lot go, I have work to do. The 4 girls reveled at the sight of 20 copper coins, despite the 30-weight gold dragon scale they had with them, and excitedly charged away towards the Adventurers Guild. The guild was chuffed to say the least on the acquisition of a smog dragon scale, and the girls left it there so its exact value and application could be tested properly. With a finder's fee of 5 gold coins, the 4 hastily hurried to the site of the dragon's corpse in hopes they might scavenge some more. Alas, the city guard had long since picked the site clean, leaving nothing but an enormous gray bloodstain on the ground. Genasi could clearly make out the outline of where the dragon came through the trees. It was hit low, and hit hard, leaving a hole in the tree canopy before smashing into the forest floor. The girls all gathered around the bloodstain, and Amari the wolf girl was the only one excited to see the stain on the ground, as she gleefully gathered up the residue from the dragon's blood everywhere she could. Serenia and Marie the human bard scouted around the area to see if anything could be found. Just as the party was clearing things up, Serenia's ears perked up. "Thunder," she said, looking around. "What?" Genasi asked as she sifted through some grass. "Thunder. I just heard it coming from the southwest," Serenia replied. "I don't hear anything," Amari replied, angling her ears to meet the noise. "It went away. There it is," Serenia said. Amari's ears perked up and followed the sound as well. "Oh, I heard that one. Strange. Mima didn't call for any storms for weeks, not a cloud anywhere. A wizard practicing magic somewhere, maybe? But alas, friends, no. The wizards and mages of yon fair kingdom hath been sent to yon harrowing place this tide. Magic, 'tis short in supply," Marie said, showing her unique upbringing. "Do you think we should take a look and find out?" Serenia asked. "Well, I don't know. Maybe we should What if that—" Another blast of distant thunder. "Is that what killed the dragon? Maybe we should scout it at least and tell the guard." "All for scouting?" Genasi asked. "Aye," the other 3 replied. With that, the 4 ladies trudged through the emberwood forest. Eventually, however, the thunderous roar ceased, and the only thing they could use to guide them was a general direction. Eventually, however, they left the forest, clear on the other side, and stopped dead in their tracks. The feeling of curiosity gave way to sheer terrified horror as the result of a battle of biblical proportions lay before them, the ground they walked on saturated in blood. Nobbins, trolls, even a few gargoyles lay dead on the ground in the aftermath of a massive battle. Not so much a battle as a massacre of excessive proportions. After vomiting profusely, the girls' curiosity took them over, and they started investigating what atrocity happened. Poor Genasi saw the upper torso of a troll, appearing as if a fireball tore it clean away and cast it aside. A group of Nobbins lay dead, riddled with small holes, some of which seemed powerful enough to tear off arms and legs. It was as if a storm of invisible glass arrows hit them like a storm and shredded them to pieces. Another troll, a very large one, had its head completely vanished, pieces of its bone and skull lodged into nearby trees. A gargoyle, one of the most dangerous beasts in the land, had been torn clean through, a giant hole right through the torso, and another gargoyle had both of its legs vanished from it. But one particular corpse, the simple body of a Nobbin, stood out from the rest. It lay on its belly, a mangled mess of flesh and bone that looked like it had been squashed by a giant pipe. "Hark! This one be the most strange. I dare say a giant smacked this one with a large tree," Marie said as she investigated the body. The other girls carefully trudged through the blood and gore over to Marie, and likewise looked at the body. A huge, strange gash, similar to that of a giant snake with a very thin, heavy body, had been left on the earth. This poor Nobbin had been squashed by it. "Hark! There be 2 of these tracks. Is this perchance a new foul denizen of the deep?" Marie said as she pointed to the other track, parallel to the one that squished the Nobbin. "I sure hope not," Amari said. She yelped, a quick, woofy yelp that meant she saw something shiny. She charged at it, and when she crested the hilltop nearby, she squealed, "What in the hell? What are all these?" The other girls charged after her and saw the hilltop was covered in strange brass objects. Strangely shaped empty cylinders, some large, most small, with an odd cylindrical shape that tapered off to a point. Amari had to cover her nose, not used to the strange burnt smell of the objects. But the two large tracks, like giant snakes, had carved a clearly visible path through the forest. Something big happened here. Ugh, I don't like this. What kind of monster spits brass cylinders and slaughters 5 trolls, 60 nobbins, and 3 gargoyles? We need to tell, Genasi said. I very much agree, dear sister. Mayhaps they can better deal with this fell beast. Hark! What be that noise? It approacheth, Amari yelled. Hide, Genasi said, and the 4 hastily hid in the trees. The 4 were taken aback, Genasi almost being crushed as a strange metal machine with round wheels, an unpowered wagon or magical enchantment of some kind, charged over the hill, barely missing taking off her head. The monster machine roared and landed with a heavy thud in the grassy knoll, its wheels carving a path, splattering the blood and mud-soaked grass in all directions. The 4 terrified girls cowered behind a few trees as the machine roared angrily, deploying some kind of large mechanical arm with a heavy claw. It painstakingly collected whatever intact bodies it could find, loaded them into the flatbed in the back, then, quick as it came, charged back up the hill and vanished into the brush. The 4 stood dumbfounded, awed, terrified, just staring at the trail of devastation it left. So, Genasi said, we're not going to inform the guard, right? She asked. Her 3 friends said nope. We're all going to go after that thing like we have something to prove, and this will all end in a crazy adventure that will almost get us killed like 100 times, aren't we? Genasi said again. Yep, they all replied. Gods above, not again, Genasi said in frustration as her arm was grabbed and dragged along with them. The machine was long, long gone. Despite its heavy metal, it was shockingly fast and had vanished through the destroyed forestry with speed never seen. The girls simply followed the obvious trail of debris, blood, and its strange wheel tracks. Eventually, the base of the Cragmire Mountain presented itself, only for the tracks to start deftly climbing up a road that had been carved into the mountain. The girls approached and continued following the tracks, with Amari commenting on how it was only a few days old, judging by the raw sand and lack of protective coating on it. They followed the road for a mile, freshly carved edifice snaking up the mountain's southern peak, before coming across a small clearing between 2 cliffsides. Wide enough for traffic, but also wide enough for youngling red dragons to snake through during their migrations. Serenia was the first to notice the distinct 4-fingered claw marks in the rocks. Hold it! This is red dragon territory. It's a migration point, Serenia yelled as they approached. We've come this far. Let's just see what's on the other side, then run like hell once we know. Come on, it's just over that crest, Amari commanded, and headed towards the gap in the rock face. They moved up and entered the clearing. Their jaws dropped, shock and awe overcoming them as they surveyed the center of the valley. The mountain was a long, dead volcano, with 5 peaks loosely shaped like a pentagram, with a huge crater in the center of it all. Inside this crater sat a huge complex with high walls made of strange woven metal and heavy-set stone. The infamous red dragons flew in many directions, perching themselves atop strange metal and wood bars mounted in the cliffsides, or casually wandering about inside of large, perfectly carved holes dug into the mountainside. Nestled inside the large complex at the center were 2 buildings, strange structures in their own right. One was built like an ancient cathedral, small but intricately made with careful attention to detail. The other was just a massive box with a large sloped roof, multiple chimneys and exhausts atop the roof, with a massive door on one side. The floors of this complex were a mixture of common sand, or the strange rock that had been used to pave the floor. Parked with care, on these paved sections were some strange metal contraptions, including the very one they chased here, its cargo bed now empty of corpses. The girls stood dumbstruck as the large square building's doors loudly and slowly opened, to reveal another huge machine similar to the one they chased. This one's cargo bed, however, loaded to the brim with filled versions of those strange brass objects they found. Suddenly a roar was heard from their right as another odd vehicle came barreling up the road into the hill. The girls screamed as the thing charged at them, barely stopping inches from their faces. They stared at the odd thing as strange humming noise, like the loud repetitive beating of a dragon's wings, emanated from the front of its odd rectangular face. A thing opened up to its left, a door, followed by two heavy boots hitting the ground, and a human covered in heavy scarlet red leather cloaks gilded with gold trim walked towards them. He looked at them and went to the back, where the girls noticed the machine had passengers, 6 red dragon younglings riding in the back, looking all too smug for some reason. "So this world has elves and cat girls?" the man asked his passengers. "That and more," one of the dragons said. "At what point were you going to tell me this?" the man asked again. This was funnier. All of the 6 dragons said at once, followed by them chuckling at the man's expense. "Great, my clients are frat boys," the man said, shaking his head in frustration as the passengers laughed at him. The man approached and looked carefully at the group of confused, terrified women. "An elf, a lupine, a necopara, and some chick dressed like it's the 17th century for some reason," he said, looking at them. "I wouldn't exactly call that dressed, to be honest." One of the dragons yelled over the chuckling, "Oh, there's the migraine. Yep, there it is. Migraine's hit. That's nice. Ooh, God, I don't get paid enough for this," he said again as he laid his head against the metal machine. "You weren't getting paid at all." One of the dragons commented, "That's my damn point, you schmuck." The man yelled back in frustration to a chorus of laughter from his passengers. The man shrugged his shoulders and with a frustrated sigh held out his hand in greeting to the group. "Hi, Hawaii, name's Caliban. Just call me Cal. I own the place, apparently." The 4 stood there. Once again, their jaws opened in shock as they gingerly reached out to greet him.
If you love engaging stories like this, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to stay updated with all the latest episodes from FY Stories.